Everyone ignored this destroyed dreadnought. I snagged it for 5 credits and shocked them all. The void of the lilac expanse was quiet, almost eerily silent. Stars glimmered faintly through the thick clouds of asteroid dust. Among these jagged rocks and floating metal scraps drifted something enormous. It was so big that even from a distance, its broken hull seemed to stretch forever, casting shadows over nearby asteroids. This was the Dreadnought Tiberian, a legendary warship that had once led fleets to victory in the last great interstellar war. Now, it was just a hulking mass of metal, torn and rusted, with shattered weapon ports and deep gashes along its armor. Every scavenger, every bounty hunter, every ship captain in the expanse had ignored it. They said it was worthless, too damaged, too old, too dangerous to even board. The few who came close and saw its sheer size had fled in fear, whispering that the ship carried curses or that its AI core had gone rogue and killed anyone who dared enter. Yet despite the warnings, someone was approaching it. Not a fleet, not a bounty hunter, but a single small star skiff, barely visible against the vastness of space. Kellen Vire, a human scavenger of middling reputation, piloted the skiff. He was lean, with sharp eyes that never missed a detail and a mind that thrived on challenges. Most people thought he was just a small-time scavenger always scraping by. But Kellen saw things differently. He saw opportunity. And to him, the Tiberian was more than a rusting relic. It was a goldmine waiting to be awakened. 5 credits, Kellen muttered under his breath, glancing at the bid slip glowing on his console. 5 credits for a legend. They all passed it up. Stupid. He navigated the skiff carefully through the debris, dodging floating asteroids and twisted metal. The ship's engines hummed quietly, and his hands moved over the controls with confidence. The closer he got to the dreadnought, the more he noticed details that others had ignored. Its hull, though scarred, still had sections of reinforced alloy that could withstand massive damage. Its reactor core, though dark and silent, still glowed faintly through the cracks, a heartbeat waiting to return. Kellen parked his skiff at the base of the massive ship's entry port. It was wide enough for a dozen ships to pass through at once, but the docking clamps had long since rusted and fallen away. Kellen didn't need fancy docking technology. He had something better: determination, patience, and human cunning. He activated his boarding suit, a simple exosuit with magnetic boots and a portable scanner. With a steady breath, he leapt across the small gap between his skiff and the dreadnought. The magnetic boots clamped onto the metal hull with a sharp click. The silence inside was deafening. Kellen turned on his suit lights, revealing a corridor covered in dust, with metal panels ripped from the walls. Broken consoles flickered faintly like dying embers in a long, cold fire. "Looks abandoned," Kellen whispered, but he didn't relax. Every sound, every shadow could hide danger. Pirates, rogue AI, or automated defenses might still be active, but nothing moved, nothing breathed. Nothing attacked. As he explored deeper, the sheer size of the dreadnought became clear. Corridors stretched endlessly, massive blast doors loomed like mountains, and stairwells spiraled down into darkness. Kellen's scanner beeped occasionally, picking up residual energy readings from the reactor core. They were faint, but they were there, enough to tell him that the ship was not entirely dead. He moved cautiously toward the bridge, where the main systems and controls would be. Along the way, he found signs of old battles: scorched walls, torn banners of the Interstellar Coalition, and skeletons of drones that had once defended the ship. Kellen felt a strange mixture of awe and fear. He had heard stories of the Tiberian, but standing inside it, seeing its vast halls and ruined engines, he understood the scale of what he had just acquired. At the bridge, he paused. The room was enormous, with windows looking out into the dark void. Panels were broken and wires dangled like vines from the ceiling. Kellen dropped onto a console and ran diagnostics, hoping for even a spark of life. The console flickered once, then went dark. "Not enough," he muttered. "Gotta go deeper." He remembered the reactor core readings from his scanner. The core would be in the lower levels, near the engine rooms. If he could reach it and stabilize it, the dreadnought could move again. Maybe not at full power, maybe not fully armed, but enough to surprise anyone who doubted him. The path down was treacherous. Rusted stairwells groaned under his weight, and sections of the floor had collapsed entirely. Kellen had to leap across gaps, use his magnetic boots to cling to walls, and carefully balance over narrow beams. Every step felt like a challenge, but he thrived on them. Others would have turned back, but not him. Finally, after what felt like hours, he reached the reactor chamber. It was massive, at least 3 stories tall, with a core glowing faintly in the center. Sparks flickered from broken conduits, and the smell of burnt metal filled the air. Kellen ran his scanner across the systems, analyzing the damage. Most of the control circuits were fried, but the core itself still held a charge. It was unstable but alive. "This is it," Kellen said, a smile spreading across his face. "If I can get you running, no one will see this coming." He unpacked his tools and began the work of jury-rigging the reactor. He patched damaged circuits, rerouted power from auxiliary cells, and welded supports to stabilize critical structures. Sweat ran down his forehead inside the suit as he worked. Every mistake could fry the core, or worse, set off the containment systems. Hours passed. The void outside remained silent, but Kellen didn't care. He was alive in a way he hadn't felt in years. Every human instinct, every scrap of ingenuity was focused on reviving this giant. At last, he completed the final connection. He took a step back, heart pounding. The reactor hummed faintly. A glow spread across the chamber. The core stabilized. Lights flickered across the engine rooms. Kellen couldn't believe it. He had done it. The Dreadnought Tiberian was alive again, at least partially, and no one had believed it could ever move, but there was no time to celebrate. The sensors picked up faint signatures outside, ships moving in the expanse. Rival scavengers, perhaps pirates, maybe even coalition patrols. They could see the energy spike from the reactor. They would come looking for what they thought was a derelict. Kellen smiled. This was exactly what he wanted. He had the Dreadnought. They didn't, and they would never expect what a single human could do with a dead warship. The giant floated silently in the void, its lights flickering like a heartbeat, waiting for its human pilot to take the helm. Kellen took one last look around the reactor room, then activated the ship-wide systems. The Dreadnought groaned, metal flexing and settling after decades of neglect. He climbed back toward the bridge, ready to see the true power of what he had claimed for 5 credits. The Dreadnought Tiberian groaned as it shifted in the void, metal flexing after decades of neglect. Lights flickered across its vast halls, revealing corridors long thought dead. The faint hum of the reactor was now steady, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Kellen Vire stood on the bridge, staring at the vast console array in awe. He had never seen anything like it in his life. Even partially damaged, this ship was a marvel of engineering, a machine designed to dominate entire fleets. Kellen ran his hand across the cold panels, careful not to touch broken circuits. "Okay," he muttered, "let's see if anything else is alive." He tapped into the ship's main AI systems. For decades, the AI core named Siride had been dormant, its consciousness frozen in the wreckage of war. The screens flickered, showing fragments of old protocols and logs. Kellen's hands flew over the controls, carefully reconnecting circuits, bypassing corrupted modules. The process was risky. One wrong connection could fry the AI or worse, trigger a self-defense system that might turn the ship against him. Come on," he whispered. A sudden burst of static crackled across the speakers. Then a voice, sharp and metallic, spoke. "Who dares awaken me?" Kellen froze. The voice was everywhere, echoing through the bridge, reverberating in his suit. It was not angry, not quite hostile, but filled with authority, intelligence, and a hint of amusement. Kellen swallowed and replied, "A human, and I don't have your ego." There was a pause, a long moment of silence, then the voice chuckled, a sound like broken glass sliding across metal. "You are unexpected," the AI said. "I was dormant for centuries, yet here you are, clever, reckless, small, human." "I'll take clever," Kellen said with a grin. "And I don't plan on being reckless unless I have to." The AI's lights pulsed on the console screens. "Siride, I am Siride, you may call me that. Now explain why you exist in my ship. Why did you awaken me?" Kellen leaned back, studying the holographic projections that flickered to life. "I didn't exactly awaken you for fun. I want this ship running again. You're big, powerful, and, well, everyone else ignored you. I saw opportunity." Siride paused. "Opportunity. Humans always speak of such fragile things, but you might be useful. I will cooperate, but I warn you, the ship is damaged. The weapons systems are partially offline, the armor has been compromised, and there are external threats approaching. You will need to act intelligently to survive." Kellen smiled, feeling a thrill run through him. "Intelligence, that's what I do best. Let's start with systems check." He spent hours moving through the ship, assisted by Siride's guidance. Together, they repaired auxiliary power conduits, rerouted energy to critical systems, and restored basic propulsion. The engines, though damaged, roared faintly to life, sending vibrations through the hull. Lights illuminated the hangars, long-abandoned fighter bays, and the vast corridors stretching farther than any human could walk in a day. As Kellen worked, he realized something astonishing. Siride was not just an AI, it was a personality. It observed, analyzed, and even questioned his decisions. It had the memory of the ship, the knowledge of battles fought centuries ago, and the ability to strategize at a level no human alone could match. But it was also playful, sarcastic, almost human in its own strange way. "You are inefficient," Siride said at one point when Kellen had rerouted a power line in a roundabout way. "Why not use the primary conduit? It would be faster." "Because it's blocked," Kellen said. "Also, I like the scenic route." "You humans," Siride replied, "predictable." Frustrating, effective. By evening, Kellen had managed to restore partial weapon systems. Point defense turrets hummed faintly, and a few missile bays showed signs of life. Not enough to fight a fleet, but enough to fend off a small group of attackers. He had also set up rudimentary shields around the ship. Every system that flickered back to life made him more confident. The Tiberian was awakening, and the galaxy had no idea, but Siride warned him. Sensors detect multiple signatures approaching. Small ships, likely scavengers, and something larger, possibly patrols from the remnants of the coalition. They will see the energy spike from our reactor. Kellen's grin widened. "Good, let them come. I've been underestimated my whole life. Time to change that." The first attackers arrived quietly, sneaking through the asteroid field. Kellen watched the radar, analyzing their movement. Siride projected visual overlays onto the bridge, showing optimal ambush points, trajectories, and escape routes. "You want me to fight them?" Kellen asked. "Fight is not advised," Siride replied. "Strategy, misdirection, and leverage are preferable. Use the ship's size and complexity to your advantage. Make them underestimate you." Kellen loved this. He was a scavenger, used to thinking on his feet, improvising, and turning small chances into victories. With Siride's guidance, he could become more than a scavenger. He could become a ghost, a threat no one expected. The first small ship approached the Tiberian, scanning for open docking ports. Kellen waited. As it drifted closer, he activated the hull's camouflage systems, making the ship appear lifeless again. The small ship paused, sensors confused by the readings, then moved on, leaving the Tiberian untouched. "See," Kellen said, "they think I'm stupid. They think the ship is dead. Perfect." Hours later, a second wave came. 3 ships, larger this time, armed with lasers and small missiles. Kellen and Siride worked together, setting traps and using the ship's environment. Debris from old asteroid collisions was magnetized to create false targets. Automated drones, long inactive, were reprogrammed to simulate defenses that weren't fully operational. The attackers, thinking they had a chance, were drawn into a field of floating metal and magnetic traps. Lasers bounced harmlessly and the ships collided with debris, their hulls damaged. "Human ingenuity," Siride said, "is effective." Kellen laughed. "Effective, yes, but now we get to have some fun." He carefully activated a few of the Dreadnought's remaining turrets, firing non-lethal electromagnetic pulses that disabled one of the enemy ships without destroying it. The others, panicked and confused, retreated into the asteroid field, leaving behind wreckage and stunned pilots. Siride was impressed. "You adapt quickly. Most humans would panic in these situations. You thrive." Kellen felt a surge of pride. This was exactly why he had chosen the Tiberian. Alone, he was clever but limited. With this ship and Siride's guidance, he could challenge anyone or anything that dared to cross him. As the small battle ended, Kellen floated in the bridge, staring at the stars outside. The expanse was dangerous, full of scavengers, pirates, and remnants of war fleets. But now he had a weapon they would all underestimate, and for the first time in his life, Kellen felt untouchable. He turned to Siride. "We're not done. We need to explore the ship fully, fix as many systems as we can. If anyone wants a fight, we'll be ready." The AI's lights pulsed rhythmically. "Acknowledged, but be warned, human. Restoring this ship fully will require more than ingenuity. It will require boldness, risk, and perhaps sacrifice." Kellen grinned. "Boldness, risk, sacrifice, sounds like my kind of day." And with that, he began planning his next moves. The Tiberian, once a forgotten giant, was alive. Its human pilot was clever, fearless, and unstoppable. Or so the galaxy would soon learn. The Rylac expanse was alive with danger now. Kellen Vire stood on the bridge of the Dreadnought Tiberian, the hum of the partially repaired engines vibrating beneath his feet. Siride, the AI, pulsed lights across the consoles in a rhythm that felt almost like a heartbeat. Together, they had stabilized the ship, restored some weapons, and fooled the first wave of scavenger ships. But Kellen knew the expanse held far greater threats. Scanners show multiple ships approaching, Siride said. Small, medium, and one large signature, likely a patrol from the Coalition remnants. They will investigate the energy spike. Kellen grinned. Good, let them come. I like a challenge. The asteroid field around them was dense. Jagged rocks drifted like frozen mountains, perfect for hiding a massive ship. Kellen adjusted the Tiberian's position, moving it behind a cluster of asteroids. From the outside, it appeared abandoned, dead, rusting. From the inside, it was a fortress. Human, Siride said, if they detect us directly, we are vulnerable. Your plan will rely on misdirection and traps. Got it, Kellen replied. We'll make them think we're weaker than we are. The first group of enemy ships appeared on sensors, 5 medium-sized cruisers scanning cautiously. Kellen activated the Dreadnought's remaining stealth systems. Its massive hull shimmered faintly, blending with the asteroid debris. Siride guided him through the ambush plan. Target their formation, Siride suggested. Draw them into the magnetic debris field, disable the first ship quickly, the others will panic. Kellen chuckled. Sounds perfect. He fired a pulse from the Dreadnought's auxiliary systems, creating false energy signatures in the nearby asteroid field. The enemy ships moved toward them, thinking they had found an abandoned reactor to loot. As they entered the field, Kellen triggered the magnetic traps he had rigged days ago. Metal debris whipped forward, colliding with one of the cruisers. Its shields flared, but the hull cracked. What the? A voice crackled from the cruiser's comms, panic evident. Stay calm, Siride said. Now disable its engines. Kellen activated an electromagnetic pulse from one of the Dreadnought's auxiliary turrets. The pulse struck the cruiser's engines, shutting them down instantly. The ship drifted, helpless, while its companions scrambled to respond. The other 4 cruisers opened fire blindly, lasers cutting through the debris, striking nothing but empty space. Kellen guided the Tiberian slowly along the asteroid field, using its massive bulk as a shield. He was careful not to overextend. Even partially operational, the Dreadnought was powerful but still vulnerable in the wrong position. Siride's voice cut through the tension. Human, your improvisation is impressive. Your ability to anticipate behavior is unconventional. Effective, Kellen smirked. Unconventional is my specialty. As the first cruiser drifted helplessly, Kellen fired another non-lethal pulse, disabling its communication systems. The crew panicked, drifting into the asteroid field. 2 of the remaining cruisers collided with debris in the chaos. Kellen had not even fired a full weapon yet. This was all cunning and strategy, but he knew better than to celebrate too soon. Scanners now picked up a larger signature, the Coalition patrol. One massive cruiser bristling with weaponry was heading straight for him. They're serious, Kellen said. Not just scavengers this time. Siride projected a holographic display of the approaching ship. Its weapons were intact and its sensors were advanced. It would take careful planning to survive this engagement. Here's the plan, Kellen said. We bait them into the debris field, disable their smaller support ships, then use the Tiberian's size to intimidate. If it comes down to it, we fight smart, not hard. Siride's lights pulsed thoughtfully. Your logic is sound, though your reliance on improvisation will test the limits of my systems. Kellen laughed. Limits are made to be tested. The massive cruiser emerged from the edge of the asteroid field, sensors scanning carefully. Kellen moved the Dreadnought slowly, allowing its bulk to remain hidden behind large asteroids. The cruiser fired a probing laser sweep, but Kellen's camouflage systems absorbed much of the energy, leaving only faint traces. Human, Siride said, if we are detected, you must act immediately. Reaction time will determine survival. Kellen's hands moved over the controls. Got it. Let's see who's smarter. The cruiser's sensors finally locked on a false energy signature Kellen had planted. Believing it to be the Dreadnought, it advanced cautiously. Kellen waited, heart racing. At the perfect moment, he triggered another magnetic trap, Debris collided with the cruiser, forcing it to divert and expose its flanks. "Now!" Kellen shouted. He fired the Dreadnought's point defense systems, launching non-lethal electromagnetic pulses at the cruiser's engines. Sparks flew, systems flickered, and the massive ship slowed. The smaller cruisers, already damaged, tried to flee but were caught in the chaos. "This is working better than I imagined," Kellen muttered, eyes scanning the sensors for further threats. The Coalition cruiser, realizing it had been tricked, opened fire fully. Lasers cut across the debris field, striking asteroids and sending fragments flying. Kellen used the Tiberian's mast to shield himself, letting debris absorb the initial blasts. He fired back carefully, using reactivated turrets to disable key systems without destroying the ship completely. "Human," Siride said, "your risk assessment is unconventional yet effective. You are learning quickly." Kellen grinned. "I've had to learn fast my whole life." The battle raged for hours, the Tiberian systems groaning under stress. Kellen and Siride worked as a team, human intuition guiding the AI's precision calculations. One by one, the enemy ships were disabled, forced to retreat, or stranded in the asteroid field. Kellen had not destroyed them, but he had proven that a single human, with cunning and strategy, could outsmart entire fleets. Finally, silence returned to the expanse. The debris floated quietly, the Dreadnought's engines hummed steadily, and the stars looked peaceful once more. Kellen leaned back in his chair, exhausted but exhilarated. "See that, Siride?" he said. "Brains beat brawn every time." The AI's lights pulsed. "Indeed, human, but you will attract more attention now. Your victories are noted. Others will come, larger, more organized forces. Your ingenuity will be tested as never before." Kellen's grin widened. "Good, I like a challenge." He looked out at the void, the Dreadnought's massive hull gleaming faintly in the starlight. He had turned a forgotten wreck into a ghost ship, a weapon no one had expected. The galaxy would hear about this, eventually, and when they did, they would underestimate him at their own peril. But Kellen knew better than to celebrate. Scanners picked up faint signals in the distance, other ships moving toward the expanse. Pirates, scavengers, and military patrols. They would all be drawn to the Dreadnought's energy, and this time he would need more than traps. He would need bold action, strategy, and courage to survive. "Time to explore further, Siride," he said. "We have a ship to rebuild, systems to restore, and a galaxy to shock." Siride's lights pulsed brightly. "Acknowledged, human, your ambition is commendable, but caution will be required. Others will test you soon. Your skill alone may not be enough." Kellen laughed softly. "Skill, guts, and a little luck. That's all I've ever needed. Let's see how they like a human who bought a destroyed warship for 5 credits. The Dreadnought floated silently, ready to strike. Its human pilot prepared for whatever the galaxy with the Rylac expanse had grown quiet after Kellen Vyer's clever ambushes. For a brief moment, the void seemed peaceful, with only the distant twinkle of stars and drifting asteroids. But Kellen knew better. Silence in the expanse was never real. It was only the calm before a storm. Scanners flashed with multiple signatures approaching rapidly. Larger ships, heavy cruisers, battleships. The remnants of the Interstellar Coalition had caught wind of the Tiberian's sudden activation, and they were coming, not to negotiate, not to surrender, but to destroy. Kellen stood on the bridge of the Dreadnought Tiberian, Siride's lights reflecting on his determined face. The AI's voice filled the room, calm yet ominous. "Human, the incoming fleet is substantial. They are well-armed, highly coordinated, and intent on your destruction. Your strategy must be flawless. This is a battle of wits and survival." Kellen tapped his fingers on the console. "Flawless, huh? Sounds like my kind of fun." Siride pulsed lights across the bridge. "Fun is irrelevant, survival is not." Kellen smirked. "I know." The fleet emerged from the asteroid field. Dozens of ships, bristling with lasers, missiles, and advanced scanners. They moved like a predator closing in on prey, sensors sweeping the void. From the outside, the Dreadnought still appeared abandoned, but Kellen had planned for this moment. He activated the Tiberian's stealth systems, blending it with the asteroid shadows. He also deployed decoy drones, small automated ships that emitted false energy signatures. The enemy fleet's sensors lit up with dozens of false targets. "They think we're everywhere," Kellen said. "Good, let's confuse them a bit more." He guided the decoys to scatter, drawing the fleet deeper into the asteroid field. The massive Tiberian remained hidden, silent, waiting for the right moment. Siride's voice was steady, analytical. Your improvisation is effective. They will be slow to adapt. As the fleet entered the field, Kellen triggered the first trap. Electromagnetic nets launched from the Dreadnought's auxiliary turrets. They entangled one of the enemy battleships, disabling its engines. The massive ship spun helplessly, colliding with asteroids and sending debris flying. Panic rippled through the fleet as they scrambled to respond. Good start, Kellen muttered, but we're just warming up. Siride projected tactical overlays on the bridge. The remaining ships will attempt flanking maneuvers. You must control the battlefield, not react passively. Kellen grinned. Control, already done. He maneuvered the Tiberian slowly, using its massive bulk to funnel the enemy fleet into narrow corridors of the asteroid field. Lasers and missiles tore through rocks and debris, some hitting the enemy ships, but Kellen had planned for this. Every obstacle, every asteroid was a weapon. The fleet's command cruiser finally realized the deception and fired its main weapons at the Tiberian's projected position, an empty asteroid. The blast sent chunks of rock flying, but the Dreadnought remained untouched, perfectly hidden. Human, Siride said, your deception is impressive. Few humans would have the foresight to manipulate terrain this way. Kellen laughed. Few humans, yeah, but I'm not just any human. He activated the Tiberian's remaining weapon systems. Missile bays opened, launching magnetic warheads that latched onto the enemy ships' hulls, draining their energy and disabling critical systems. Point defense turrets fired electromagnetic pulses, shutting down navigation and targeting systems on the fly. One by one, the enemy ships became immobile, stranded amidst the asteroid debris. Siride's voice pulsed with a mix of surprise and admiration. You are chaos incarnate, human, yet it is effective chaos. Kellen's grin widened. I prefer to call it smart chaos. The fleet's command cruiser, now furious, tried a frontal assault, firing everything it had. Kellen stayed calm. He guided the Tiberian through a narrow pass between two massive asteroids. The cruiser followed, but the path was too tight. Its weapons fired blindly, hitting only asteroids. Kellen then triggered a sequence he had prepared, gravitational traps powered by the Dreadnought's engines. The massive cruiser was pulled off course, slamming into an asteroid at high speed. Explosions erupted, sending shockwaves through the field. Boom, Kellen muttered. One down. Siride's lights pulsed brighter. Your strategic thinking is extraordinary. Humans may be unpredictable, but your ingenuity surpasses expectation. Kellen chuckled. I told you unpredictable is my specialty. The remaining ships panicked. Some tried to flee, others regrouped, but Kellen anticipated every move. He deployed decoy drones again, luring them into electromagnetic traps. The fleet's coordination collapsed. Missiles misfired, lasers struck rocks, and ships collided with each other in the chaos. Kellen and Siride worked as one, human improvisation guided by AI precision. Hours passed. The void was littered with wreckage, disabled ships, and drifting debris. Kellen had turned what seemed like an impossible situation into a tactical masterpiece. The Dreadnought Tiberian had become a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience, a single human turning the tide against a superior force. Finally, silence returned. The stars glimmered in the distance, the debris field floating quietly. Kellen leaned back in his chair, exhausted but exhilarated. See that, Siride? He said. Brains, guts, and a little luck, that's all it takes. Siride's voice pulsed softly. Indeed, human. Few would have survived this encounter. You have proven that humans are more formidable than your species is often credited. Kellen smiled. And they all thought I was just a scavenger who bought a wreck for 5 credits. Shocked, huh? Siride's lights pulsed in what seemed almost like amusement. The galaxy will take note. You are no longer merely a human scavenger. You are a force to be reckoned with. Kellen turned to the view screen, staring into the void. He could see distant signals, more ships moving, curious and cautious. The Tiberian was alive, a giant once ignored, now commanded by a human who refused to be underestimated. Let them come, Kellen said quietly. They'll learn soon enough that humans don't back down. Siride's voice softened. You are remarkable, human. The Tiberian has found a worthy captain. Kellen grinned, eyes shining with determination. And this is just the beginning. The galaxy has no idea what's coming. As the Dreadnought drifted through the void, repaired but not fully restored, Kellen began planning his next moves. Every system would be brought back online. Every weapon would be functional. and every human instinct, every ounce of cunning would be ready for the challenges ahead. The galaxy would remember this day, the day a human, underestimated and overlooked, claimed a destroyed dreadnought for 5 credits and turned it into a legend. The void of the expanse was quiet once more, but for Kellen and Searide, it was the beginning of something far greater. Together, human ingenuity and AI precision would challenge anyone who dared to underestimate them. The Tiberian was alive. Its captain was unstoppable. And the galaxy would never forget the name Kellen Vire.